The full moon in Capricorn brings with it a celebration of success, a time to take note of our accomplishments and see ourselves as leaders. It calls on us to take ourselves seriously and truly own our talents and abilities. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It's your girl Luna. I'm so excited to be here today. I'm so excited for the full moon. I'm getting this to you guys a little bit late, but it's an evergreen video. The moon will always become full in Capricorn once a year, so you know what, if you don't see it this year, you'll see it next year. But anyways, it's the full moon. I'm so excited. I tried to go a little Capricornian today, and I'm just pumped. The full moon's great. Let's talk about what the full moon is a little bit for those of you who are a little bit new to celebrating the lunar phases. So the full moon is the peak of the lunar cycle. We know what a full moon looks like. We know what that looks like. Energetically though, this is the culmination, the celebration, the energy's raised. So I mean, a lot of folks who work with like in hospitals and stuff like that will say like full moons are always the craziest. And it's true because full moon, like the energy is peaked, and those of us who maybe, it's in our chart that we're super connected to that full moon, the energy will get more magnified in those areas of our life. We'll talk about that later. But it's a raise, a buildup of energy. You can be more tired on the full moon if you're sensitive to energy, just because it can be a lot. It can kind of drain you if you're not careful to ground yourself. But whereas like the new moon is the beginning, the start, maybe you're making your intentions, the full moon is like the peak, right? Really great time to celebrate, great time to do any sort of spiritual work because the energy is super, super palpable at this time. It's really easy to tap into it. But it's also like, I like to use it as an excuse to just like hype train, have a good day, celebrate, just like an excuse to celebrate whatever it is that you want to celebrate. Ideally, when we're building the lunar cycle into our spiritual practice, we would look back and see like, okay, what intentions did I set on the new moon and where am I now? And like, what can I celebrate? Like, it's not the time to judge. That's going to be more of like the last quarter and like the waning moon. But right now it's just like, okay, what went good about those intentions I set for this month or this lunation? What went well, and celebrate that. Let's talk about the specifics of the Capricorn full moon. Okay, so it always happens in Cancer season because astronomically, the full moon is when the moon is fully illuminated by the sun. So that means that the moon's over here, sun's over here. So when we look at the chart, they're opposing each other. So whereas the new moon, the moon is dark because it's in front of the sun. They're in the same constellation. It's full. They're opposite. So opposites, right? So Capricorn energy, Cancer energy, there's definitely some tension there. And that's kind of what creates the full moon being so energetic and so, big energy. The full moon in Capricorn will always happen on a different day each year, just kind of depends. You can watch this video at any point in the future because the moon will always land in Capricorn. But if you're watching in 2024, when I'm filming this, the full moon in Capricorn is happening on July 21st at 3:17 a.m. Pacific, 6:17 a.m. Eastern. I'll leave a list of future full moon in Capricorn dates in the description. So if you're watching this, if you're a time traveler, I'll have those dates in the description as well if you're looking for like specifics. Capricorn is an earth sign. I'll leave in the description my video all about Capricorn energy if you really want to tune into that or learn more about that. But a little quickie on Capricorn, they're an earth sign. They're very grounded, they're very rooted, they're very concerned with stability, structure, making sure that they have what they need. And they're definitely the type, because they're cardinal, to get what they need, right? So they're definitely like the go-getters of the earth signs. And that's something that's kind of fun because Capricorn is an earth sign. It's kind of like, usually earth signs, they're considered yin energy, so they're kind of like receptive. But Capricorn's like, I'm gonna go get what I need. That's why they tend to kind of get stereotyped as like workaholics. They're very goal-oriented. They're very much like, they know what they want and they're gonna do it and they're gonna go get what they want. And it's just like very focused, determined, because they have that earth energy behind them. Capricorn rules the 10th house. So this is the house of the public image, the career, our legacy, leadership, how we're viewed by others, specifically in like a workspace. So that's why Capricorns tend to, be very work focused or very legacy focused. They're like, what am I doing? What am I doing with my life? I have so many Capricorn friends, and they're all just like, they're such hard workers, and they're so good at what they do because they have such high standards. And that is partially because they're ruled by Saturn. So this is the planet of discipline. This is Big Daddy Saturn, right? Okay, so he's just like, he's disciplined, he knows what he's doing, he rules authority, maturity, all those things. And so being ruled by Saturn, this full moon will have us thinking about a lot of those concepts. So the energy, this Capricorn full moon is really going to highlight our public persona, our work ethic, and our relationship to success, as well as potentially our relationship to father figures and masculinity in general, because Saturn and Capricorn do, kind of reflect male figures and like fathers. That's why I call him Big Daddy Saturn. Okay, so what are like the vibes that are gonna come up for us this full moon? So we're likely gonna be ruminating on our connection to success, legacy, career, just generally the work we do. I do want to note this can be a really great time to journal about or just kind of like deconstruct your relationship to hustle culture, toxic productivity, things like that. Like, how can you balance your work life better? Because Capricorn full moon happening in the 10th house, and so Cancer rules, I'm not saying it's happening in the 10th house, but Capricorn rules the 10th house. Cancer rules the 4th house, right? So Sun, 4th house, Moon, 10th house. So this is that duality of like work, public life, our legacy, the what we're creating in the world versus our inner life, our home life, what we're doing for ourselves. So it can really bring up some questions around work-life balance. And just how that relates to us. I think that work-life balance is very tricky from a personal perspective as somebody who really loves what I do and is like intrinsically like on a cellular connection connected to the work I do. And so I think it looks different for everybody. And so that's why I think like it's great to read books and to like, do what you can with that and talk to people. But at the end of the day, just like unpacking what feels best for you and what feels right for you on that work-life balance. Is there a way you can honor the energy of your work while making sure you still have time for yourself, or vice versa? I always like to include the shadow side of the kind of like energy of where the moon is going to be this full moon. So let's just talk about it super quick. The shadow, so every zodiac sign, everything honestly has a shadow side, because everything is made up of polarities. Everything has a shadow side. And so some of Capricorn's shadow side can be really like becoming obsessive, specifically with work. So becoming a workaholic, avoiding emotions, and being a little bit too strict, too rigid, too structured sometimes. And I'm not saying this energy is going to come up in you. I'm not saying every Capricorn has this energy. It's just that this is the shadow side, and like so easy to like, lean into our shadow sides when we are feeling vulnerable or feeling overworked. And so it's just something good to note, because as we're all experiencing the Capricorn full moon, these are all, could happen, could come up for us. And if you know about it, then you can work through that. And, when we talk about shadow work, and I have a whole podcast episode about shadow work that I'll link below, it's not about, ew, that's bad, we can't be that, we can't do that, let's reject it. It's about like, okay, cool, let me notice this thing that's coming up within me, and let's see if we can integrate that. Let's see if we can understand where that's coming from. I think being a workaholic, for example, is something I definitely fall into. There's something that your shadow is trying to do to protect you or to keep you safe, and that's why sometimes it overdoes it, or we do these things that might be kind of like negative, perceived negative, toxic, or unhelpful in any way. So instead of like being like, ew, we hate that, that's so bad, ew, cut it off, just like learn to integrate it, learn to accept it and work with it, to be a little bit more healthy with that expression, if that makes sense. So maybe just take some time to journal or think about how, if any, of these elements have been coming up for you. And I do want to note that the intensity of this moon and especially also the area in which it will, the area in your life in which it will really kind of manifest is unique to you based on your natal birth chart. So yeah, I really recommend looking at your natal birth chart wheel. So not CoStar. I love you, CoStar babes. I really do. But unfortunately, CoStar doesn't show us the specific natal chart wheel. I'm talking the circle. I'll throw up an image here if you haven't seen it. This is what you're looking for. And what the wheel does that CoStar won't do is it'll show us our empty houses. So let's say you don't have any planets. I think for me, I think this is, CoStar did this for me. I don't think CoStar shows you your midheaven, which is really important, or your Chiron or your nodes. Let's say you have your North Node in Capricorn. That's super important. But if you don't have a personal planet in Capricorn, I don't think CoStar shows you. And let's say you have nothing in Capricorn, but Capricorn's in your 6th house, for example. That is still relative to you, and the full moon will still be transiting your 6th house, which will bring up things for you, but you won't be able to see that if you're looking at something like, let's say, CoStar. I'm not trying to hate on CoStar, I know. I'm not trying to be that person, but I really recommend looking up this natal birth chart wheel is what it's called. It's not too hard to cast it. It is hard to read it if you're not sure what you're looking at, but if you think you can read it, go to astro.com and go to the birth chart selection or extended chart selection. You can just type in like natal birth chart and you can find it. I just like astro.com personally. But if it's feeling too like confusing or you're like, I have no idea what I'm looking at, I highly recommend getting a reading with a professional astrologer. They can really make it make sense and like normal everyday terms, because when you're looking at the wheel, you're looking at the glyphs and the lines. It can just be really confusing if you are not seasoned and you don't really know what you're looking at. It can be really hard to even identify where Capricorn is and what's going on. So I do want to just say I do offer 2 astrology readings. I'll talk about them more a little bit later. But one is for beginners. If you like, I don't know what I'm looking at, I really just want to know the basics. Like, you know, I have a reading called Your Unique Magnetism, which is the current bestseller. It's so fun. It's very affordable. It's only $40. It's super simple and quick. And we just really go into what makes you magnetic, the really cool parts of your chart, your strengths, you know, things that you can use to really tap into your beauty, to your magnetism, things like that. And I do an anatomy of the birth chart in a little bit of a brief and understandable way, so it's not confusing and I can super pinpoint for you where Capricorn is. So if you want to get that reading before this full moon to know what's happening for you, I'll leave that link down below and you can just leave in the notes like, hey Luna, I would love to know like what's gonna go on for me for the Capricorn full moon. Otherwise, I'll do the traditional unique magnetism for you and show you the coolest parts of your chart. It's honestly my favorite like reading to do because it's just like a hype session where I get to geek out about how cool your chart is, because everybody has really cool things within their chart and it's so unique and it can just be so beautiful. Anyway, let's move on. I'm done pitching myself. So find where Capricorn is in your birth chart and find the house it occupies. This is very important. So I'm gonna use Dolly Parton's chart as an example because I love her. I didn't know she was a Capricorn queen. She's actually right at the cusp. I'm looking at it right now. She's right at the cusp of Capricorn too, which makes sense, I think. So where Capricorn is in your chart might shift depending on if you're looking at Placidus or whole sign. Now I do want to say this is a little bit more advanced, so if you're new to astrology, you can just tune this one out because it might be confusing. I prefer Placidus when doing natal chart readings. I like whole sign when I'm doing you know, solar returns or transits or something like that. I prefer Placidus, but to each their own. I respect whole sign. I've studied Hellenistic astrology, so I like them both, but personally, I would recommend using Placidus. And if you're like, Luna, what the fuck are you talking about? Just like, don't even worry about it. And that's part of the reason you could hire a professional astrologer, just because that can kind of confusing. You could also just like take both into account, like if Placidus and whole sign takes you into different houses for Capricorn, take both into account and just go with what resonates, because at the end of the day, this is all about connecting to our intuition, understanding what resonates. Okay, cool. Let's look at Dolly Parton's chart. Hers is so cute. Okay, so her Capricorn is in her 5th house, and she's got a little stellium here, which is stellium is a fancy word for 3 or more planets or placements in a specific sign or house. So 5th house stellium, Capricorn stellium. And that makes so much sense because the 5th house is ruled by Leo, so it's very expressive and creative and performative, kind of childlike fun, loves to play dress up. And like when we think of Dolly Parton, I mean, she has this iconic image that is specifically rooted within her career. She's talked in like articles and stuff about how she like takes her wig off and goes incognito out with her husband when she's just in her normal life. So it's not so much like a 1st house thing, but it's this 5th house thing of like playing dress up in this kind of career vibe. And I think that's so fun. She also, so a part of her stellium, so we've got the Sun, Venus, and Mercury. And so anyone, you all get it. You all get it if you are familiar with astrology. Like, it just encourages a lot of really aligned creation. Venus is super creative, also like really beautiful. So I think having this sort of like Venus-Sun conjunction really makes somebody iconic for their appearance and for their beauty. And like, let's be real, you know what I'm saying? Like Dolly Parton is gorgeous and is like literally an icon, like known for how she looks. And having Mercury here as well, like brings in that sort of vocal throat chakra energy. So her being a singer makes a lot of sense. For this specific full moon, transiting all this really fun stuff happening in her chart, great time to create. Like if she was like working on an album or something, I wouldn't be surprised. You know, or even just like a celebration of creative energy, particularly in her career. And honestly, like for her, it's just a fun time to celebrate personal achievements and personal accomplishments too, because these are such personal planets. So I'm just sending her all the best vibes because this is just like a beautiful chart. Whereas if somebody had Capricorn in their 1st house, I would tell them to really spend time celebrating their personal successes, and honoring maybe like that leader within themselves. If somebody had Mars in Capricorn, I would encourage them to like really take this time to take aligned action on a creative or work endeavor this week, because that energy is so raised within this planet of action and creation that it's a perfect time to take that action. So I know that was a lot, and I was just kind of throwing out a few examples. So if you're new to astrology, like just like take a breath, because that can be super confusing. And you don't need to get so specific if you don't want to, if you're not feeling like getting a professional reading. If you just want to celebrate the full moon and, you know, kind of just go with the flow, not worry too much about where it is in your chart. If it's a little too confusing, I totally understand that, because the general attributes will still apply to everybody. If you do want to learn more about your chart for times like this or for general personal development, so I have 2 readings. One is the unique magnetism reading that I actually added a 3rd reading. Okay, so 3 readings. So the unique magnetism is the one I talked about already. So that one is like a beautiful for beginners, because it's like a great intro. It's really fun. It's down to earth. Like we just really kind of chat. And there's no like astrology lingo that's going to be confusing. It'll get you familiar with your specific natal chart wheel. Again, we can talk about Capricorn in your chart specifically if you're wanting to know kind of like what might come up for you this full moon. Or honestly anything else. If you have any other questions, like pop it into the notes, but otherwise the default is for me to look at the really, really cool strengths within your chart, the really beautiful parts of your chart, the things that make you really unique, really magnetic, and it's really a fun, good time. Current bestseller, like people are loving it. I love it. It's one of my favorites to do. I also offer a full natal chart reading. This is a big boy reading. Like it's just like it's like an hour and a half. We meet live on Zoom, and it's just like a deep dive into your whole chart. So I would say wait on that one if you're a beginner and just like get a little bit more comfortable, because it's a lot of information and we dive super deep into your chart. It's really fun and like I love it, and my clients love it, but it is definitely something to do if you are familiar. Maybe if you've seen your wheel once or twice, or you're a little bit familiar with your personal planets. If you are just familiar with like your sun, moon, and rising, you can still get it, and just be prepared to take notes. And I just released a third reading called the Astroglam Glow Up. It's a magical makeover, so it's kind of like the unique magnetism reading, but I actually go in with my expertise as a professional makeup artist and cosmetologist, and we work on both like energetic glow up and like how to connect more to your intrinsic beauty that you can see within your chart, and like working with what you have physically and just like really connecting to your just like inner beauty and like owning it. And like, so I do makeup tips, like hair stuff, a little bit of fashion. Fashion's not my expertise, it's more makeup and hair, and like creating like a glamour ritual kind of like routine for you, essentially, like so that you can connect more to your beauty. This is a new reading. It's very exciting. I only have 3 left for July, so but it's super fun. Anyways, so those are my readings if you want to dive more into it. The Astroglam Glow Up is more of like a glow up than an astrology reading. So yeah, that one's fun. But I would definitely say like unique magnetism for if you're new, full natal chart if you want to know all about your astrology, and the Astroglam is like you want to glow up. You're in your new era and you want to like, yeah, glow up physically and energetically. I have 2 areas of celebration that I want to talk about for you to kind of connect to this full moon. The first area of celebration is honoring our successes and the energy of our work. So Capricorn, as we know, represents the 10th house, which rules over our legacy. And legacy is not always the work we do to put food on the table, the work we do at our 9 to 5, what we do to make money. It's not always that. Our legacy does not have to be how we make money. Our legacy can be, the charity that you work for, or like the family that the family that you have, or maybe you like donate your time, or you spend time with your friends, and like your legacy is more like community oriented. That's definitely a part of our legacy for sure. So yeah, spend time thinking about your legacy. What is it? What do you want it to be? What do you want to be remembered by? And then just spend some time like connecting to the energy of that. Like, what does that look like? And my ritual idea for you is to make a list of your most proud accomplishments, because like, yes, it's good to think about our legacy and like make sure that we're aligned with it and we haven't got off our path. But it's the full moon, so it's kind of the time to like vibe and have fun rather than to like, make new plans and blah, 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 blah. Like, it's more celebration. So make a list of your most proud accomplishments. It also doesn't have to be career related, but just like make sure that you are acknowledging the cool stuff you've done either this month, this week, this year, even your lifetime. Like, it could be whatever feels right for you, because you just need, it's really easy to do something really cool and like have a really cool accomplishment, and then it's just like, okay, on to the next thing. And that's so Capricorn, right? Like, it's so Capricorn to be like, okay, I did it, now I have to do it better, now I have to do another thing, now I have to do it greater. And it's just really important to sit and be like, I did that thing. And I just had a reading, and I had a rune reading. It was so cool. And he said this quote, and it was like, if you've done it, it's not bragging. So like, don't be afraid to really own what you've done and your accomplishments. I thought that was such a cool quote. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I need to hype myself up more. If you are like a seasoned astrologer, you can cast a business birth chart if you are able to kind of come to like, okay, when did I start my LLC? Or like, when did I create the Instagram for it? Or, when was my first order? Whatever feels right for you to say was the birth of your business, if this is like business or career oriented, you can cast a business birth chart and just like get to know the energetic personality of your business, of your career. I think business birth charts are so cool, and like I have one for my podcast, and it's cool to see how each season had a different energy. And if you're not like really comfortable with like astrology, or you're not super connected to it, you could also do a tarot reading to get to know your business or ask it some questions. In the same way that you might interview a new tarot deck, you could interview your business and be like, what's your vibe? What's your energy? Because I'm an animist. I believe everything has energy, and also like even non-physical things like your business. And so, you know, there is energy there. There's something that wants to come through. And so I think really connecting to that and honoring it is going to be super good. You could also create a little business, career, or ambition altar and leave a little offering just of like, yay, you know, like, I see you, I celebrate you, cheers, drink a little Moscato to it. And you could also do a success spell for your business. Although this is like the time of celebration and, you know, partying and having a good time, it's also the peak of energy. So when you do spell work during this time, it's going to be a little less draining because you're working with all that energy of the full moon. There's a lot of energy there to work with. So a lot of times when we want to manifest something really big or we want to put something out there, the full moon is like the best time to do it. The second area of celebration is connecting to your inner leader and releasing toxic productivity. Ooh, toxic productivity. This is something I'm familiar with. I will be talking about the divine masculine soon, and a lot of the wounds that a lot of us face because it is very prevalent in our society, and everybody, I believe, kind of has a bit of you know, the unhealthy divine masculine within them, and it's all about learning to balance. I'm not saying the divine masculine is bad. Obviously, you need the polarities, and there's a lot of beauty to the divine masculine. It's just about learning to connect to that in a healthy way, because it really hasn't been, what's it called? It hasn't been really shown to us how to be in our healthy masculine, divine masculine. So I'll talk about that soon. That does have a lot to do with toxic productivity and a lot of the, you know, shadow side of Capricorn that is very intrinsic in our society. We'll unpack that later, but stay tuned for that. Some questions to ask is, what does your ideal inner leader look like? How do they act? If you're self-employed or if you're an entrepreneur, how can you improve as your own boss? Could you be more nice to yourself? Or maybe do you need to be more disciplined at times? I could do both. I need both, right? And so some ritual ideas I have for you. You could do a cord cutting ritual or like a burning paper ritual to release any toxic productivity or hustle culture that's out of alignment with your goals for a healthy work-life balance. You could do some glamour magic to enchant an item with some boss bitch energy. You know, for that, just think about like what your inner boss bitch wears or looks like or smells like, and kind of go from there, creating that talisman. Whether it's like a striking cat eye or like a lemongrass scent, you know, just like enchant that object with that boss bitch energy under the full moon. And of course, you can make moon water, you can cleanse or charge your crystals. I have a couple of crystals that I recommend working with for the Capricorn full moon. Black tourmaline for protection and strength, moss agate to ground into stability and rootedness. That word was kind of hard to come out. Rootedness. And carnelian to enchant your goals with fire and to increase ambition. So if you're feeling like you need more protection, black tourmaline. If you want a little bit more ambition, a little bit more fire, really carnelian. And if you're feeling a little bit too fiery and you need to ground yourself, moss or tree agate. I have a tarot spread for you. First card is, how can I root into my personal goals more? Card 2, how can I ground myself more? Card 3, what area of my life needs more of my attention? Card 4, what do I need to release to honor my needs? And I have some journal prompts for you guys. A couple things just to think about, ponder, or write down, maybe make it a little ritual. What is my relationship like to the divine masculine? to toxic productivity, hustle culture? What am I ready to release in regards to this? What does my inner leader / boss act like, look like, smell like? How can I physically connect to that energy more in order to embody this part of me when needed? How is my relationship to ambition, to my work-life balance? What am I proud of? What are my favorite accomplishments of this year? That's what I have for you today. If you want like further help with the full moon, I have some full moon meditations. I actually have a bundle of every full moon in the year. So 12 full moon meditations for $22 on my website. You get all of the full moon meditations, each one for each of the full moons for the year, plus you'll get a full moon calendar for 2024, 2025, and 2026, so you'll never not know when there is a full moon or what time it is. I also do full moon girls night a couple days before the full moon every month in my Patreon, so if you want to join, it's on the star tier. Our full moon in Capricorn girls night is Thursday the 18th at 6 p.m. Central Time. Okay, so if you want to join, you can join. There will be a replay. In these full moon girls nights, we kind of just hang out, but we also, I'll go into the specific aspects of the specific full moon. So I don't do that in this because I want this video to be applicable for all future full moon in Capricorns. And every year it's going to be having different aspects to different planets and stuff. So come join us on Thursday night and get a vibe, and we'll talk about even further activities you can do, the aspects and everything about the full moon. I can pull a little tarot card for you if you're feeling like you have a question, and this is all live on Zoom, so it's really, really fun. And also we just have a little bevy hangout, and it's a good time. And of course I have those astrology readings that I'll leave linked in the description. That was a hard sentence. Other than that, I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope it was super fun. And I hope you have an amazing full moon in Capricorn, wherever you're tuning in from, whatever year. And I hope it's great. Okay, I love you guys so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.